So one of the shows I worked a lot on when I lived in Los Angeles was Grey's Anatomy. I worked on that between 2007 and 2014. Now I'm just going to tell some little interesting tidbits that happened while I was at the show when I worked it. Funny, interesting, quirky, and ironic. So, here's to 20 great seasons of Grey's Anatomy. It just made 20 seasons this season, and I got to work at it between, as I've said, 2007 to 2014, which were between seasons 4 and I believe 11. The first time I worked Grey's Anatomy was in October of 2007. When I was on set, I met a woman there. She looked about 10, 11, 12 years older than me. And we kept in touch. And I said to myself, boy, she would be really nice to date. 2012, we went out. So that's a little interesting story there of working at Grey's Anatomy. I met one of my ex-girlfriends at that show. I get there, as every job I worked in life, I've always been very early at every job. I get there first before all the other extras. I'd be waiting in line outside the trailers. And who would come out every morning? First, before every actor? Sandra Oh. She'd walk out, smile at me. Good morning. How are you? And I say hi, and she'd go to her trailer for makeup and hair. So that's an interesting story I have there. Then I was getting booked on it through my booking service every once in a while, maybe once every couple of months. But that was the show I was working the most on. And then I joined Jeff Owen Casting, and I submitted. I was submitting for a character part for an audition. And Gil, the extras casting director, called me in. And he said, you're going to be booked to work one day. They're going to audition you. And me and some other guy auditioned. But I also auditioned that day with about 30 other extras to work the next day in a front row scene in the theater scene with Debbie Allen's character when she was introduced. And the scene I auditioned for, actually the big scene, was between me and this one other guy. It was supposed to be in a lab room, and Debbie Allen's character was teaching the residents how to operate on a penis. And I did my scene, my reaction stares, and the other guy did, and he got chosen for Debbie Allen to say a line to him, and he just reacted to that. They cut the scene. So if I had gotten it, maybe they would have cut it too. But with me, when I used to work these shows and I used to get featured, most of the time it was kept in. And speaking of Debbie Allen, one time when she was directing, I was doing a cross, they were telling me where to cross, the assistant directors. And Debbie Allen, she was going, but we're still on that same first, we're on 2 different floors now. And you just crossed once and you went again. She was, sweetie, sweetheart, sweetheart. So she called me sweetheart. I'll never forget that. And she goes, just wait on the elevator there and then don't come back out right away because we're on the 2nd floor now. You're coming too fast. I'm like, okay, they told me to do it, so I did it. But she called me sweetheart. And one time in 2009, the doors to the set would blow open because of the air conditioner. And the assistant director goes, guys, keep quiet. Walk in. They're filming a scene, but just walk in. Keep quiet, though. So as I'm walking in, I think it was Patrick Dempsey, he's walking by me. He goes, hey, what are you doing? I'm like, going inside. He's like, but the red lights on? And I was like, yeah, but they told us we could go in if we're quiet. And he just looks at me. And like, the air conditioner keeps blowing the door open. And he's like, and he just walks off. They knew that air conditioner was like that, so they probably got the go-ahead from the crew before that they can do that. Like, the extras, because it was always blowing open. So we got to do that all the time as long as we kept quiet. So that's another story I have there. Those are some of the stories I remember that were very interesting, funny, ironic. There are a lot more, but those are some that really stick out.